Wow, dude. Put him in the recovery.
I went on the armor, no.
It's not that main entrance where everybody's going.
Shit, bro.
Oh, no, it's all right.
Okay, take a deep breath.
Get the front on. You got anything?
Shot any of it? Where did he get at? Hit in the head. Hit in the head and the side. Hey, stay with us, bro. Hey. Hey. Fuck, dude.
Hey, so they took you into the cemetery.
Bro, we need medical now for him. All right. Hey, somebody wait medical in here. Move the shops out of the way.
Gauze or anything?
Huh? We need gauze. We need gauze. Give me gauze.
I have it in my shop.
Fuck, bro, dude. Hopefully he makes it, bro.
Shop team management.
Hey, he's breathing. He's breathing. Hey, stay with us, man.
Good, bud.
Stay with us. Hey, stay with us, dude. Stay with us.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
All right. So that is horrible. Absolutely horrible. How is this happening? Like, how do you screw this up? He literally just wrapped the tourniquet, the tail of the tourniquet around on this guy. And then stepped away like his job was complete. No. This brings some questions like, how does this happen? What kind of training did he go through? Was he ever shown how to use a tourniquet? And this is concerning. Not so much because of this criminal who has forced the police to shoot at them because he came at them with a deadly physical weapon. Not so concerning to me at this point that he's improperly putting this on this guy, but it's concerning to me because what if this officer himself got injured? What if he got shot in the leg and had a femoral artery bleed? What if one of his co-workers had an arterial bleed in their leg? This is how he would have put this tourniquet on them. And they could die in 90 seconds. It takes 90 seconds to bleed out from a femoral artery hit. Would be dead. There's nothing that can be done at that point. I don't care what ambulance arrives. I don't care what doctor could be there. Once you lose so much blood, there's not that much that can be done for you. And the fact that he is walking around with no proper knowledge on how to utilize a tourniquet is appalling. It's negligent, really. But unfortunately, that's what happens in this line of work. You've got agencies out there who only want to do the bare minimum requirements. You have agencies out there who say, well, all we need is CPR, AED, first aid. It checks the box, especially for these agencies who have accreditations that they want to keep. And a part of the accreditation process is everyone's got to be trained in CPR, AED, first aid, and they got to have so many first aid kits, etc. And so it's just a checkbox, right? Like, oh, we met this minimum requirement, check off. And as a former CPR, AED, first aid instructor for American Heart Association and for American Red Cross, I can tell you that the first aid portion of those courses is not that great. CPR, AED is their bread and butter, pretty much. The first aid stuff, although it does have okay information, it is not in any way geared towards providing pre-hospital care for the armed professional, for the tactical scenario, the scene, right? And so we have to look to TCCC for a guideline, for a model on what good training looks like. Tactical combat casualty care goes over how to use tourniquets, how to use pressure bandages, how to pack a wound, how to insert nasopharyngeal airways, stuff like that. The first aid training in your American Heart and your American Red Cross, it goes over some very basic medical stuff. And again, like I said, it's good information to have, but when it comes to gunshot wounds and stuff like that, it's not that great. So the basic first aid stuff will go over like how to assist a person with taking their inhaler, how to assist a person with administering their EpiPen, how to bandage a cut on an arm, how to make a cravat or a arm sling, in case they have like a broken arm or something like that. I know vividly in my head, I do recall for American Red Cross that there was a separate video that talked about a tourniquet, but it was not required to be played for the class. It was only there to be played if the students had asked about a tourniquet. There was no training on how to utilize a pressure bandage. You learn how to put gauze on a wound and then wrap it with some gauze to make a bandage, but nothing like a pressure bandage. There was nothing in there about how to insert nasopharyngeal airways, oropharyngeal airways, how to put an occlusive dressing on a person with a gunshot wound on their chest. It just simply does not cover that stuff. But it does go into how to treat people for hypothermia, hyperthermia, if they're having a diabetic emergency, little stuff like that, right? Like some very basic first aid stuff. Again, good information to have. Everyone should have it, but it's not enough for the tactical environment, for the armed professionals. So we have a lot of officers out there who are not getting good enough training because their chiefs, their administrators are stuck in la-la land, worried about meeting these check boxes to receive their accreditation so they can proudly say, oh, my agency's accredited, ha ha ha, but my officers don't know how to apply a tourniquet. That's the reality of the matter. And it's cheaper to do just the CPR 80 first aid classes. To bring someone in to start teaching some of this TCCC stuff, bringing in a commercial instructor, it costs money. It costs a whole lot more money than it costs to put on a basic CPR 80 first aid class. What some people do out there is they may have someone on the department who was in the military and may have been at one point trained in combat lifesaver, and they can do kind of a impromptu or unofficial class on, hey guys, here's these tourniquets, this is how we use them. There's some agencies out there that don't even issue tourniquets. They don't even give them to their officers. Officers have to buy them themselves. And then there's some agencies out there that reach out to the ambulance provider or the fire department who have medically trained people who are like at EMT basic level or higher. Or they could even be medical first responder trained. and they reach out to the air ambulance companies like air evacs, and they can have them come in and put on a specialty class for them. Sometimes some of these people are cross-trained in a program called Stop the Bleed, and they can come in and put on a specialized class for them, and it doesn't really cost them a whole lot, if anything at all. Some agencies, they don't have those kind of resources out there. They don't have an air evac office local to them that will put on a class like that. Their ambulance provider may not have someone who's got an instructor in the Stop the Bleed program. They may be able to do kind of an unofficial training, kind of show them some stuff, but it's not going to be a good structured class or anything like that. There's some places that may send out a video link to everyone for them to watch on how to apply a tourniquet. Some officers, individually, once they go buy their tourniquet, they may watch some YouTube videos on how these things are properly applied. That's okay to some extent, but you really need in-person training from a competent instructor who can have you go through the proper steps on how to apply it, put you in some really small reality-based scenarios, get you to do this stuff under stress, and have you do it multiple times so that you would be able to repeat it under stress in real life. If you buy a tourniquet, you should also have a training tourniquet as well. So the company that makes this, they also sell a training tourniquet. It's just a bright blue tourniquet, and that is designed so that you can utilize it multiple times. Go through the process of wrapping it around a person, spinning the windlass around, tightening it up, and then locking it in place. You want to do that with a training tourniquet, not the one that you're actually going to be carrying on you. You could even go so far as to buy obvious, real fake tourniquets for your training tourniquets. I've actually got one of those in my training box. It was I was buying some stuff from a guy. He had holsters and a belt, and he had a tourniquet. And this happens to a lot of people too. Is they'll come across what they think is a good deal for a tourniquet. They're like, yeah, that's a pretty good price, because these things aren't cheap. Like, they're $30 a pop, pretty much. And so they'll find one for like $15 or something like that on Amazon. And these Chinese companies, they make some decent counterfeits of these, but they're not life safety rated. And this guy had obviously fell victim to a scam and bought a counterfeit tourniquet. Well, when I bought the holster and the belt and stuff from him, it came with the tourniquet or whatever. And of course, I took the tourniquet out and I started inspecting it, and right away I knew this thing's fake. It's not real. And so I was like, well, I'm still going to keep it because it's a good training aid. I can use it in classes, give it to students, and they can put it on, start spinning the windlass, and get it to lock in. And if it breaks, then good. That's an extra value for the students in that class that get to see this thing break, so that they can see, oh, hey, this was one of those $15 tourniquets off Amazon. Yeah, don't do that. Go straight to the manufacturer and buy the tourniquet from them, because there are way too many counterfeits out there, and they just do not hold up very good. But yeah, you get your live tourniquet that you plan to carry on you, and you get yourself a training tourniquet, one that you can utilize on you or someone else, and go through the steps of putting it on, tightening the windlass, and locking it in place. These are windlass style tourniquets. There are also elastic style tourniquets. And for someone like this guy, I think he has really a bit of a ectomorphic kind of body frame. He's kind of small, and his arms are just not that big. Not that big. And you can see on smaller people, this strap right here, it can kind of, let me back it up some so you might be able to see what I'm talking about. Alright, so he's got it opened up right there. See him bring it open. Let me hit the sound because it don't get loud. Alright, let me hit play from this point, because I remember seeing the plate on it when he opened it up. Right there. Alright, so perfect timing. So this hard rigid plate right here, if their arm is small enough and you feed that strap in through that buckle and you cinch down on it, and then you try to start spinning the windlass, their arm is so small that you can't get this thing to twist and bind enough to effectively occlude the blood flow there. And you will really see this with children and animals like canines. You're just not going to be able to use a windlass tourniquet on them because it will, quote unquote, bottom out on them. So there are elastic style tourniquets that are more preferred. My favorite one was the TK4 tourniquet. It's just one big elastic band with like two hooks on the end. There's also the RATS tourniquet, and then there is the SWAT T tourniquet available out there. And I want to say there was another one. I just cannot remember it off the top of my head. But for smaller people with smaller arms, smaller legs, where a traditional windlass style tourniquet would bottom out on them, you could use those elastic tourniquets to get the same effect. Right? You can take a RATS tourniquet, which is like one long, thick bungee cord, essentially, and get a tight enough wrap around a person. It's going to stop the blood flow. It's going to be very effective at stopping the blood flow. The TK4 tourniquet, very effective. The SWAT T tourniquet, just a big fat, long piece of elastic rubber, effective at stopping the blood flow. So you need to have, like I said, a tourniquet on you, but you should also maybe in your vehicle have an elastic style tourniquet as well. Or you can even keep two tourniquets on you. You could keep the windlass style tourniquet on you, and then your pocket, where the elastic one is more foldable. It's not as rigid as one of these, because you got to think, this windlass style tourniquet is pretty rigid, right? Like it's set in its length right there almost. An elastic style tourniquet can be compressed down to kind of the footprint of this plate right here. Like a TK4. Like my TK4 tourniquets don't take up a whole lot of room. They're compressed pretty good. The RATS tourniquet can be stowed away in a pocket pretty easily and not take up a whole lot of room. So you can very well have two different style tourniquets on you. Have the windlass style tourniquet, have the windlass style tourniquet for man-sized men, and have your elastic one for really small petite men, real small women, children, or even your canines. So yeah, that's it on talking about tourniquets and seeing a horrible, atrocious, egregious application of a tourniquet in the field by a public servant. This is probably one of the worst videos I've seen with providing pre-hospital care. Just completely horrible. As I said, if he had to put this thing on him or put it on one of his partners, if they had a femoral artery hit, they would die before the ambulance got there. And that's just unacceptable to me. Unacceptable. If you're going to carry a gun for a living, you must also carry medical equipment for a living. If you're going to train and have the knowledge on how to operate that gun, you're going to need to train and have the knowledge on how to operate that medical equipment. Not only should you have the ability and the knowledge on how to induce trauma, but you should also have the ability and the knowledge on how to reduce trauma. If you carry a gun, you recognize the fact that you could be involved in a gunfight or some other deadly force encounter, and that you, your co-workers, or your family could be seriously injured, and it is up to you to save them. For you, especially for you armed citizens out there, if you've got the mindset of, well, I carry a gun because a cop can't get here fast enough, well, then you should have that same mentality for medical gear. You should have medical gear and training with it because an ambulance cannot get to you fast enough. And for you cops out there, for you security guys out there who have the mindset of, well, if something happens, the ambulance will get us. You're living in a city, all the ambulances, it's just, we got a few stations, right? Like they're pretty much right around the corner. They'll get to us pretty quick. No, you cannot count on that. It can take 5 to 10 minutes for an ambulance to get to you. And it can take 90 seconds for you to bleed out from a femoral artery hit. It is asinine to think that you can fully rely on an ambulance to come save you. You have to know how to save yourself and the people around you. And you have to have that equipment to do that. Alright, that's it. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.